All right, hello everybody. This is Axter99. I am a content creator and indie game developer, and I feel a need to kind of defend myself with some recent drama that's happened on the Steam platform. So I have been attacked, my games have been attacked by what I feel is absolutely one of the lowest slime balls, one of the lowest, like, pieces of walking filth to ever walk on Earth or show himself on the Steam platform. And I'll show you what I'm talking about with that here in a few moments. Let's go ahead and start talking about me, why I do what I do, why I've done what I've done, what I do. So I am a game lover first and foremost. It all started with Asteroids way back in the 1980s when I was a kid. Loved that classic arcade game. My parents didn't have enough money to buy me the Atari 2600 when it released, even though one of my best friends had it, and I was so jealous. But I would take a few quarters and go in and play Asteroids every time my mother went to the store. Couldn't get enough of that game, even though when I first started it, I just wasn't that good at it. It came to a point, where I could actually play a game and make a quarter last 15, 20 minutes, whatever, with that old school Asteroids game. So in 2017, I was messing around with code and with making a game in the Game Maker engine. And I remember one of my first games I was going to call something about Zaxteroids or something like that. Like asteroids, but Zaxteroids. And I was going to make a game for anybody that came and subscribed to me on my YouTube channel. But I had some ideas for Zaxteroids that were a little bit different than the old school Asteroids game. It wasn't going to be a direct ripoff. It wasn't going to have the hyperspace. It was going to have, resources that came out of the asteroids. It was going to have bosses, much more than like the UFOs that we saw in Asteroids. It was just going to be Asteroids times 10. And I was going to give this game as a free game to anybody who came over and subscribed to me on my YouTube channel to try to help my subscriber base over on YouTube. But I was streaming me creating the game from the start, which is something I've done a lot of over the last 5 years. A lot of times when I'm creating a game, I stream myself creating the game. Most of my games, I have streamed dozens and dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of hours, and show people what I'm doing, where I'm working, and people can watch me code, people can watch me create the sprites and the objects I make in my games. It's all done by me. It's all done with a ton of love and a ton of heart to make games that I feel like are extremely fun to play. Now, I started doing this and I decided to start making these games on Steam because as I was creating Zaxteroids, a few people saw my game actually coming to life and see that it was actually coming together pretty quickly for my first game ever. And they saw me actually get a roll attack, which is my way of like doing hyperspace but presenting a risk versus reward element to getting out of the way of like a lot of rocks coming into you at the same time. You could kind of get out of harm's way, but it would have a risk, and they saw that coming together. It's called my spiral attack in Rock and Roll, if anybody's played that game. But anyway, viewers, like moderators and people that were watching me, I think I had around 15 that night, said, Zach, maybe you shouldn't give this away as a free game. Maybe you should go ahead and develop this a little bit more and put it up on Steam and charge a few bucks for it, 5, $10 or whatever. And so I listened to them and I decided to, why not go ahead and make this a better game and spend 6 months developing it or whatever. And that's exactly what I did, but I changed the name from Zaxteroids to a Rock and Roll because I thought it made more sense. The rock being the asteroid and the roll being the roll attack, the spiral attack that I created as a way to get out of harm's way in the game. Rock and Roll has evolved a lot since I first introduced it, and you can read all about that over on the Steam page. But I decided to start creating more and more indie games, A, because I really enjoy using my creativity and my love of gaming to create what I personally believe are really fun 2D games to play. Now, while I understand that 2D games aren't a mainstream type of game today in the year 2022 and going forward, I do believe that there is a niche audience who really likes and appreciates a well-made 2D game that is a lot of fun to play. Obviously, you can't have the kind of graphics quality and everything like that that something like the Unreal Engine can make as an indie game developer. But I don't care about graphics. What I care about is using my creativity and making unique experiences, even though I might use, like, Nerve the Worm, for example, uses the old snake game idea. But I have made Nerve the Worm my own with so many unique gameplay elements that I have never seen in a game before. So I've created 10 Steam games to date over the last 5 years, and that's a rate of about 2 games per year. Obviously, not flipping, low effort trash, because most of my games have, dozens, if not hundreds, or even thousands of hours of work put into them. Rock and Roll easily has over 1,000 hours of work put into it at this point. So let's go ahead and talk about Nerm the Worm. Nerm the Worm was a game I introduced in 2020, and I spent a few months developing the game and making it. A lot of time, because I wasn't working at the time very much when I created Nerm the Worm, so I had a lot of time on my hands. And when I created Nerm the Worm, I decided that I wanted to create a snake game that was ultra fun to play. In fact, I wanted to make the best 2D snake game to ever grace the Steam platform. And as somebody who's played well over 100 Snake games throughout my life, everything from the Commodore 64 to current, Snake games on Steam, that was a very big challenge for me to make something I firmly believed was the best Snake game I've ever played. Out of all the years and platforms I've played these on, phones, Commodore 64, Amiga, everything. So I knew to do that, I was going to have to be creative with Nerm the Worm. So with Nerm the Worm, for example, I introduced a lot of elements that I have never personally seen in a 2D Snake game, such as clearing out 50 different levels, such as seeing, mugs of beer spilt, that if you took your worm through the beer, you would get drunk, and you would see beer suds like this block your vision. But the beer suds would actually prevent the apples that were falling from rotting, because as you play the game, apples will drop. That's another thing that I made that is completely new to my Snake game. I've never seen the actual apples dropping from the tree onto your gameplay map. And they get smaller and smaller as they drop. And if you actually have your head where they drop, you catch it and get bonus points. Again, something unique to my game that I came up with and created myself with my love and passion for creating unique 2D game experiences, even though the type of game might not be, new to gaming. So with Nerm the Worm, I also made apples drop either in a yellow color, a green color, or a red color. And it goes from green, fresh, red, okay, they're starting to, become a little more ripe, I guess. And then yellow, they get too ripe and they're starting to rot. And then finally, after yellow, they turn into a bomb and blow up. So that creates a big risk and something challenging to play. Something, again, I've never seen in a 2D Snake game. So Nerm the Worm was made with a ton of love and a ton of creativity. And I firmly believe that Nerm the Worm now is the best 2D Snake game I've ever played. I also firmly believe it's the best 2D Snake game available on Steam. Some people could argue and maybe point to some other Snake game, maybe that I haven't played yet. But again, I believe I've met my challenge and then some with Nerm the Worm. I want to give game players and people like myself who can appreciate a 2D game something fun to play and something that has unique twists and turns in it in my games. So Nerm the Worm sadly hasn't done as well as I would hope, especially when it comes to user reviews. However, Nerm the Worm has made money. Nerm the Worm, at this point has probably made me a few $100s, since 2020, a couple of years ago. But I created a bundle back in, I believe, January or February, because I was needing money to make sure that I was able to keep my son and I, roof over my son and I's head, as I was out of work again, looking for a better job, waiting for a better job. And that's happened now. I actually have one of the best jobs I've ever had in my life. But at the time, I needed to make sure I had money to pay my rent, in early 2022. So I went to Indigala and created a bundle of all my games to try to make in some money for my 2D game. Something I really didn't want to do because I don't want to have my keys all out, out there. So I had to make a tough decision to do that. And with that bundle, I was able to make $800 or $900, which definitely helped me stay afloat and keep my rent paid when I actually got the money, like in April. So with that, we have one of, like I was talking about, one of the lowest forms of Steam user life out there. In Obey the Fist is his Steam username, and you guys have probably seen him because he is very prolific in creating Steam reviews about games that he really cares nothing about. You compare that to me, who on YouTube, I review a ton of games, and I have like a lot of missed games, for example. And I think I have like around a 38% negative review rate. So games that I play, about 38% of them, end up getting a thumbs down from me, right? Because there is a lot of like asset trash and lower stuff on Steam. But you see in Nerm the Worm, it has one negative review out of the like 10 reviews it has. And again, it is by this guy, Obey the Fist. Now, because he reviewed like 5 of my 9 games at this point, I did decide to respond to his attacks on my game, a game which he at the time only had 0.1 hours in the game. Now you see he has a half an hour game because of my recent response. Now, this game here, he says it's unimaginative. I think I've already demonstrated how I put creativity into my game to make it a very unique experience. 2D retro pixel ripoff of someone else's game, The Snake. So there's been a million. Imagine if every game where you shot somebody with a gun, like Call of Duty, was a Call of Duty ripoff, or a ripoff of Quake, or a ripoff of, one of the old school retro Doom, for example. Any game where you shoot with a gun is a ripoff of Doom, or any RPG is a ripoff of Diablo, or whatever. That's kind of what that's how silly this is, to say that my game's a ripoff of a 1970s game called Blockade. No, it's not. The video gaming industry was famous, attempted to enhance the game from highly successful light cycle arcade game Tron in the 1980s to an ultra simple version of the game appearing on Nokia phones back in the 1990s. Again, like I said, there's been a million Snake games. Apparently, we fast forward to 2020, all advancement in the science and technology of video gaming is abandoned. Now, let's go ahead and state for the fact that Obey the Fist, if you go through this guy's reviews, this guy is like on a mission in his life to basically tear down any 2D game, period. Okay? This guy has torn down and said that Terraria is a lazy, low-effort game made with no inspiration and using ugly 2D graphics and doesn't belong in gaming today, right? That's the kind of guy we're talking about with Obey the Fist, and you can read all about it on his Steam profile. So if you go to his Steam profile, yeah, he looks like he removed a lot of the stuff here, but he just says PC gamers deserve the very best, asset flips, retro pixel shovelware. So this is what he calls any 2D game. Any 2D game, even Terraria, anything, even like Stardew Valley, whatever, is retro pixel shovelware. Game construction, fan fictions, mobile apps, etc. have no place here. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at this, guys. Since 2014, this guy now has 7,100 reviews. I'm almost to 1,000 reviews, and I've been reviewing games since about the same time on Steam, 2014. So this guy creates 7 times more indie game reviews than I create. But when you look at his reviews, you kind of see that his reviews are, if you read, it looks like he has a decent review here. But almost all of his negative reviews, talking about asset flips, are just a flip of all his other reviews. So he has a copy and paste. He copy and pastes the basic, Game Maker template review about this game that uses Game Maker. This one's a little bit different because he actually goes in and says asset flips and lists all the different asset flips. And there's nothing wrong with like giving games negative reviews. The problem is this guy, just like he did originally with Nerm the Worm, he didn't even play the game. So with all the games that he reviewed back in February or whatever it was that I created that bundle, he didn't even play the game because I went to the high scores and looked at all the games that he negatively reviewed, and he didn't even have a high score listed. And he also reviewed the Best BJ, which is my blackjack game. He didn't even have a balance listed as a high score, and all it takes to get a balance is complete one hand, which takes like 10 seconds, 15 seconds. He didn't even play the game 15 seconds, but he just let it sit there until he played for 6 minutes so that he would have enough time to leave a negative review. That's the kind of guy we're talking about. So especially if you see a game that he's played 0.1 hours, you can almost guarantee he hasn't even touched the game or played it at all, right? So if you go through these games, he will, the Game Maker Studio Construction, this is copy and paste. All his games that he reviews that were made with Game Maker have this exact line in them. If you go through his reviews, you'll see that. Now, back in February, when he attacked like 5 of my games with these similar copy and paste type reviews, I went through all his reviews and I responded to his attack on my game. Now it's a lot longer because he didn't like the fact that I actually retaliated, as I'm doing now. But I said, typically I refrain. This is all part of my original response back in February, I believe it was, right? He reviewed my game. He reviewed my game back in February, and then I responded back in February. And I said, typically I like to refrain from responding to negative reviews such as this one. However, I feel that it's important for anyone reading this review to take a quick look through his review history. And if you do, I challenge you to. I don't know, I probably spent 30 minutes going through his reviews, and I found out very quickly by flipping through his pages, page after page after page of negative reviews, that after the first 10 pages of his reviews, 99 of his last 100 reviews were negative reviews. I went ahead and went further at that point because I was astounded that he had a 99% negative review rate. I went through his last 1,000 reviews and found out that 993 of those 1,000 were negative reviews. Again, you compare that to me, who has about a 38, maybe 40% negative review rate. But all my reviews, guys, you see on my YouTube channel. So you see exactly why I hate him. You see me actually play the games. Unlike this guy who doesn't even play most of the games. He just makes an opinion about, oh, this is a 2D game. Oh, this is made with Game Maker. I'm going to negative review it. Lets it set in his taskbar or whatever for 6 minutes. And then writes the negative review without even playing the effing game. Right? But anyway, 99.3% of the games he chooses to play are negative reviews because he has, again, a mission. He targets any 2D game on the Steam platform to blast, right, with his copy and paste reviews. Again, I challenge you to go look through any reviews. You will see the copy and paste in effect over and over and over again. You know, he does a copy and paste of a review and changes the, hey, this game, you know, whatever, changes the name of the title and a couple of things in the review, but that's it. But again, I say to that he hasn't even posted a high score in any of my games. At this point, he might have, because now he's responded again, and he's actually got 0.5 hours in the game. I don't think he's played that long, but he's trying to make it look like he cares. He doesn't, right? I also, I say it's perfectly okay for this Steam user to not like 2D games, or doesn't like my games, or made any game with the Game Maker engine. But the fact is he has left multiple negative reviews for the time, and he hasn't even posted a high score in any of my games. Like I said, he posted a negative review on the Best BJ, my blackjack game, and he hadn't even played one hand, right? Because he had no balance posted. So that means he just loaded the game up, didn't even play a hand, and left a negative review. So most of these games that he's playing, he's not even fucking playing at all. And then he writes a negative review. So how fair is that, really? To not even play a game before blasting games with negative reviews because it's simply 2D or not a type of game that you like, right? So also in my research, just by Googling, I found this particular link here. I thought you guys might find, this is something I updated with my reviews. I updated this here to an article I found made last December. And in the end, I said I strongly encourage everyone to make up their own mind about a game. Especially if a game has 90% positive reviews, such as Nerd the Worm, rather than just focusing on the one single negative review made by a Steam user with such a hatred and bias of 2D games. Absolutely. Especially when you see that like 90-something% of his reviews are 2D games, and he obviously hates them. He doesn't like any of them. Like I said, he hated Terraria, he hates Stardew Valley, any 2D game he calls shovelware. So why do you play over 99% 2D games if you hate them so much, right? But this guy here is a developer who made a Godot game with the Godot engine. And Godot is a, it's a freeware engine that can make either 2D or 3D games. And it's definitely not a game construction kit, as you'll see this guy attack the Godot engine. He knows nothing about it. What he's talking about is what I'm trying to say here. So this guy talking about how he met him a few months ago. He calls him Obey the Fist, an Invader Zim's reference, but I don't like the idea of calling him that every time, so I'm just going to call him Obi from this point on. Obi's history. Obi's first review was published during the before time, November 14, and already contained all the elements that would make him infamous in years to come. The game Blood Knights was not recommended with less than 20 minutes of gameplay at the time. Hey, that's a lot for him. And this is so similar to the large majority of his reviews, almost 6,000 of them. So he had 6,000 reviews, almost 6,000 back in December. Now we see that in June, 6 months later, he has over 1,000 more. He has 7,100. So he's reviewed over like 1,200 games in the last 6 months. Yeah. So what is that? 6 divided by 12? That's like 2,000 or 200 reviews a month. Over 200 reviews every single month this guy makes. Do the math, you see that he's reviewing like 6 or 8 games a day. Every single day, 7 days a week, I'm going to review 6 or 8 2D games and blast them with my copy and paste reviews. That's the kind of guy we're talking about, yeah. So he plays a few minutes, dislikes it, and tries and claims that he's defending PC gaming. But in the beginning, he took it slowly. This is staggering, guys. He only reviewed 3 reviews in 2014. In 2015, he reviewed 29. In 2016, he reviewed 189, so he's getting up there. But nothing yet. 2017, 321 reviews, almost a review per day. In 2018 and 2019, he had over 700, so basically he's up to 2 games per day. In 2020, at almost 4 games per day, 1,344 reviews. And then as of December 16th, 2021, he has almost 2,500 reviews. So again, now he's up to his 6 or 8 games per day. And then we saw that so far in 2022, as we'd already said, he has over 1,200 reviews. He's putting out 6 to 8 reviews a day. And again, almost every one of them is an attack on a 2D game that he sees. Now, I'm not saying that all the games he writes negative reviews about are good games. I'm just simply saying this guy just sees any 2D game and blasts it with one of his copy and paste negative reviews and doesn't even play the damn thing, right? Which isn't fair at all. And he's obviously on some huge mission to attack retro gaming and 2D gaming. Anybody an indie developer who's trying hard, as I do, to make a good, fun 2D game, he doesn't care. He doesn't care to play it. He just blasts it with his copy and paste negative review. And then if you retaliate or stand up for yourself or stand up against him, as I have done, then he actually goes and plays it more and tries to, annihilate you with, quote, facts or whatever. And we're going to show you how ridiculous this is here soon. So anyway, guys, this guy's talking about why would this guy play a total amount of time of negative reviews. At this time, he had played almost 20,000 hours, games that he gave negative reviews. He played over 20,000 hours, even though he's not even playing most of these games. So, yeah, definitely on a mission to attack 2D games. And then he goes on to say how he's attacking any game made with the Godot engine. He loves using the word asset flip. And when mentioning Godot a few times, he even called the Godot a construction kit, which is ridiculous, which basically proves that Mr. Obey the Fist doesn't know a fucking thing about gaming and game development. He doesn't know anything. To call Godot a game construction kit shows you're a fucking idiot, basically, right? But he thinks he's smart. It was made, so this is copies from some of the reviews. It was made with a terrible Godot game construction kit using a poor quality game engine, invariably results poor quality games. He also goes on to say that almost any game that he reviews that's made with the Unreal Engine, he usually loves, unless it's like a direct asset flip or whatever. But I highly recommend you guys, but unlike him, I don't have 20,000. I highly recommend you guys go give this article a read, because it's definitely from a developer who wanted to defend himself and say what a piece of work Obey the Fist is here, right? So this guy, since I posted this response yesterday or whatever, yesterday, you see here, I posted this response and posted this article. He didn't like the fact that I posted a link to that article we just looked at, obviously. He also didn't like the fact that, I posted that he doesn't even play the games, which is obvious as well, when he doesn't even have a high score listed in the game, and he played the best BJ and hadn't even played a hand yet. It's obvious that he's not even playing the fucking games. But he didn't like that I posted this and made this update with this link to this article. So he got mad. And let's go ahead and take a look at some of the stuff he wrote. This developer has also compounded his stalking. So he's saying I'm stalking him by taking a look at his reviews and seeing that he has that 99.3% negative review rate. That's stalking him, right? because I took a little bit of time to actually investigate who the hell is, negatively reviewing over half my games back in February. By a stalking campaign against me personally, into a creepier, more hostile harassment campaign against me. Right. But your mission of negative reviewing over 7,000 Steam games because they're 2D, because you don't like 2D games, that's not creepy or harassment at all against any developer making a 2D game, right? Yeah, just trying to understand the logic of this. You can fill in the blank with all the vile names and curse names and all that. Do that yourself. Anyway, simply because this developer cannot handle the objective facts about his failure of a game developer. I'm tempted to bring this to Valve because this kind of personal harassment is vehemently against their terms of use on the platform. Again, what about your mission to negative review any 2D game that you don't even fucking play? Just on a mission, 7,000 negative reviews, or 7,000 reviews, 99.3% of them are negative reviews, still over 7,000 reviews against 2D games that most of them you don't even touch or play. You just leave them running in your browser long enough to leave a review. You compare that to somebody like me who actually plays a game, makes a video, shows you why I don't like it. You guys have seen time and time and time again that when I do play a game that maybe isn't the best, I try to give the developers suggestions on how they can make their game better, how they can improve on what I'm seeing. Something this guy, there's no constructive criticism by this guy whatsoever, right? There's the difference. He also links a piece by the hosted blog by another creepy stalker. Yeah, anybody who actually looks at what you're doing is a creepy stalker. Gotcha there, Mr. Obey the Fist. His blog is full of the same nonsense. Nonsense or facts, right? But Zax reveals once again more that by attacking and personally harassing me, again, seeing that you have a 99.3% negative review rate is personally harassing you. But what you're doing is perfectly normal and fine. Right. Somehow his crap will sell better and be more popular than the 1 to 2 players who load it up and play it every month. Guys, we already know that 2D gaming is a very niche market today, especially on Steam. My games aren't marketed. My games have no marketing whatsoever. It's going to be very few people that actually see my game because my games are buried under thousands of games, even when they're on sale. They are definitely nowhere near the top of the list, or they have no marketing because I don't have money to market my game. So of course they're not going to sell very many copies. But most of my games do have about a 90% or higher positive review rate. I will state that. So it's not like my games are getting blasted by tons of negative reviews. Most of my games are simply not played or understood, much like this reviewer here, Steam Critic. Yep, I have replied to it. Once again, Zaxxer personally attacks me instead of addressing the single fact of my review. Oh, I'm addressing the fact and how I make my games and why I make the games I have. I'm addressing everything right now in this video, Mr. Obey the Fist, because my review is wholly accurate in your twisted mind, where every 2D game, even Terraria and Stardew Valley and games like that, or low effort, pieces of trash. Zaxxer lies about replying to negative reviews, so far he's replied to 100% of them. Absolutely right, I have. Because you are a unique case, Mr. Obey the Fist. If I changed every single one of my reviews to positive, you mean all 7,000 plus of them? Nerm the Worm would not suddenly get 4K support, 3D graphics, etc. Correct. I never wanted my games to be 4K or 3D, have 3D graphics. If I would have wanted the games to have 3D graphics, I would have learned something like a 3D engine, right? I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm making. Like I said, Nerm the Worm, I wanted to make the best 2D Snake game that I've ever played, and firmly believe that I made the best 2D Snake game on the Steam platform. And I've already demonstrated how I did that, right? But even if my game suddenly magically got these things, it would still be a crap or ripoff of someone else's game made badly. How would you know you haven't even played the game or cared to give the game a chance? Mr. Obey the Fist. Other reviews have zero bearing on the objectivity, bad quality of this game. Again, this is your opinion. And this is an opinion based on a guy who we've already proved has a hatred of all 2D games. You have that in your Steam profile. You do it over and over again with your copy and paste negative reviews of all 2D games. You have definitely proven you have a hatred of every game made 2D, and you're not going to give a single one of them a chance, even a game like Terraria, for example. This developer attacks me for not spending a lot of time playing Nerm the Worm. In fact, I made sure to play it long enough to pick up a couple of achievements sufficient to determine the defects in the game that render it unrecommendable. In an attempt to discredit the facts and validity of my review, the developer seems to think that the game must be played for several hours. No, I don't. Before determining any objective opinion. Apparently, again, we've already stated that this guy already knows going in it's a 2D game, he's not going to like it. So even if he plays it, he's still not going to find it fun. And it's like, you know me playing a platformer. I don't like platformers, so for the most part, I try to stay away from platformers. You don't see me reviewing platformer games. Imagine if I had a hatred of platformers, kind of like I did. Well, it's not near as big as this hatred this guy has for 2D games. But imagine if all I ever played, if I played 7,000 platformers when I hate platformers. It would make no sense, right? But that's what this guy is doing. Yeah, again, we know that playing a game longer will not suddenly make the graphics better, yada, 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 yada. Again, not everything is about modern graphics. You don't have to have a 3D game in the modern time quality to have a fun game. If that was the case, then nobody would have ever loved Pac-Man or Asteroids or, Defender or Centipede or any of the many games like that that people have loved and started gaming, the love of gaming back in the 80s. There's still very much a love and appreciation by most people for 2D games. But now he says, I'm the victim of stalking. So this guy's playing the victim card, as usual. I'm the victim of stalking and harassment. But again, I go back to what about what you're doing to every indie developer who puts his heart and soul into a 2D game that you attack. That's not harassment and stalking. 7,000 reviews, 99.3% of them negative. I decided to look a little deeper, and it turns out Zaxxer is a very nasty, hypocritical piece of work. Aside from being a failed game developer, this guy makes his own living slamming other games, most of which are better than his own. Yeah, because lots of asset flips in my Myth series games are much better than mine. So while he attacks me for writing negative reviews where games aren't up to scratch, that's all he does himself. No, that's not all I do myself. I've already stated the fact that if you look at my review rate, I have tons of positive reviews. In fact, I have a whole Zaxxer's Indie Gold series where if I find a real gem of a game, I shout it out and make it a Zaxxer's Indie Gold. I try to find the gems out there. And again, with my negative reviews, especially if I feel like there's any amount of effort put into a game I negatively review, if I see any kind of effort by an indie game developer, because I'm a developer myself, so I can usually see that, I try to give them constructive feedback in my reviews, especially in my video reviews. And I try to tell them ways that they can easily make the game better. I try to be constructive even when I do make like a miss video most of the time. Unlike this guy. So anyway, guys, we see here what I wanted to show you guys here. Where was it? Right here. So he says this game does spin your GPU up to 100%. So he decided that a choice was made to go absolute retro pixel art, which we've already covered all this kind of stuff. Gamers deserve more today, etc. These flaws push the game below the minimum acceptable PC standards. While this game does spin your GPU at 100% immediately, I couldn't detect any signs of crypto mining. It seems that it's just really badly optimized due to the incompetence on behalf of the developers. Right. So let's go ahead and take a look at that GPU usage, shall we? All right, guys, I have Nerm the Worm minimized here and paused. So I want to go ahead and see if this statement has any truth to it at all, that the game pushes a GPU up to 100% immediately. Let's go ahead and take a look at that, shall we? And let's look at the GPU for Nerm the Worm. Now, I do not have I have a 2060, right? My graphics card is a 2060, so definitely not a top-of-the-line graphics card. And we see here that it's at 9%. We also see the CPU usage is of around 1 to 2%, right? Let's go ahead and unpause the game, shall we? Nerm the Worm staying around 10%, 6%, 3%. So we see that this guy is obviously a huge liar. Unless all he has is a computer that can play 2D games and it has like a 2004 graphics card, which I highly doubt. Now on the Nerm the Worm, we're at 9%, 7%. Most of the time, we're saying 2% graphics card. Yeah, we're really pushing my graphics card to the limits. And this is what I wanted to go ahead and say, guys. Um, and so, yeah, my game also has streaks, so you can pick up green apples and you get streak multipliers, which give you more points. Something else I've never seen in a 2D snake game in my life, and I've played well over 100 of these kind of things. So this is just one of my games, guys, that this guy has attacked, and I just wanted to go ahead and defend myself, my ambition, my passion, and something I enjoy very much doing by this piece of work here on Steam who has, for whatever reason, I think he needs mental help, to be honest. Because anybody that is reviewing 6 to 8 2D games every single day, 7 days a week, 365, and continuing to go faster and faster on how many negative reviews he's pushing out as the years go on, obviously he's not in a stable mindset, right? Again, I mean, he's resorting here to absolutely lying about this as well. While this game does spin your GPU to 100% immediately. Yeah, right. You're not lying at all. So let's go back, Mr. Obey the Fist, to your attack, saying that I am attacking you and I am harassing you and stuff like that. But this kind of stuff is absolutely perfectly okay. So anyway, I could go over all my reviews and all the games and stuff like that, but again, any of you guys that have seen me code my games, you guys see how passionate I am, how I have to have every sound perfect, how I make a little sound in my game, often with my mouth, and then changing it in Audacity, how I go and spend time drawing my own assets. I don't want to use like assets. I want to draw my own art. I want to make the game 100% from me. Often I think of a sound effect, I kind of know what kind of sound effect I'm looking for, rather than spending hours looking for that exact chirp or bullet shooting sound or whatever. I just make a sound into my mic and then edit it until I'm happy with what I have. Not passionate at all, right? You guys that have watched me code my games have seen how much passion and how tirelessly I work at getting an idea that I have working in my game the way I want it to work. And any of you guys that have seen me code my own games, I would appreciate you responding down below this video. I know this has been kind of a long video here, guys, but it's pretty rare that I have to defend myself and defend something I'm so passionate about by somebody who's obviously on a mission to attack and tell lies and act like he's played games he hasn't even played against any game that's 2D. I don't know what this guy's problem is. When we're talking about Obey the Fest, I don't know who hurt him or if he just is terrible at 2D games and he can't handle the hand-eye coordination that a 2D game brings. I have no idea. But somewhere along the way, it seems that some 2D game has hurt his little bitty self-ego and self-value to the point that he's made attacking every 2D game ever made with his, copy and paste negative reviews, a priority in his life. This is obviously a priority in his life. When you're reviewing, again, 6 to 8 games every single day, 365 a year, you probably don't have much of a life. You probably have your priorities way too messed up. Again, maybe if this guy was doing something like I do and trying to give developers ways to make their games better and being constructive with what he does, it would be understandable and acceptable. But this guy is just on a mission for hate and to tear down other people's creativity, other people's work, with his negative copy and paste reviews about 2D games he doesn't even play. He just dislikes all 2D games. So again, I would love to know which 2D game hurt this guy to this point where this became such a mission and an obsession in his life. I would love to know what you guys have to say. This has been Zaxter99. Again, always a very avid and passionate gamer. And you guys are always welcome to go over to my Twitch page where I, often stream me coding a 2D game, and you guys can see that I'm very passionate about what I do. And you guys can also see by looking at a lot of my negative reviews on my YouTube channel here, misviews and everything, that a lot of, if I feel any effort put in by a developer, you see me try to help the developer make changes to make their game better. And I'm sure a few of you guys out there can thumbs up me on that as well, and agree with me that I am very passionate about helping indie game developers make their games better when I see some level of effort put into it. It's not just an asset flip or whatever. So anyway, guys, an exhausting video. I hope you guys have enjoyed this or enjoyed this rant. But this guy here obviously isn't even worth my time, but I think that it is important you guys know about this Steam user, because if you ever see a 2D game negatively reviewed by this piece of art, or this piece of work, shall we say, you know that you can just throw it out the window, because this guy is about as objective and fair as, I don't know, what. Yeah, he's a real piece of work, for sure. Anyway, guys, I'd love to know what you guys have to say down in the comments below. Please share your comment down below. Let me make sure you like this video if you enjoyed this rant or enjoyed seeing this perspective on what's going on here with this particular piece of work. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. This has been Zach, 209. Take care.